Yeah, I thought for today, I just gave talks throughout the week during session, and so I thought I would kind of do a little recap. I will not be giving six full Dharma talks. I'm going to do a mini version and kind of compress them. I thought it might be fun, particularly because what I did this week, and poor Michelle has had to hear this preamble like 5 times now. But last year during Rohatsu Sesshin, which is the first week of December session, I started um, talking about the enlightenment cases of the ancestors in this Denko Roku, the record of transmitting the light. This is a collection of koans that talks about the enlightenment experiences of all the ancestors in our lineage, starting from the Buddha. So Rohatsu 2024, we started with the Buddha and talked about the first 5 ancestors. And then I picked it up with the 6th ancestor this year, and we got through number 9, I think. Uh, so I don't know how this will go, but I'm just going to read the cases of all the stories that we went through this week. It will feel disjointed, and I'm not going to have time to really go into all of them. But I think if we just make it messy and confusing enough, maybe it will open up something for us. So we started on Tuesday with the 6th ancestor, who was Michaka. Michaka, the ancestor before him, was Dritaka. Um, so the 6th ancestor was Michaka. Once the 5th ancestor said to him, the Buddha said, practicing wizardry and studying the small is like being dragged with a rope. You yourself should know that if you leave the small stream and immediately come to the great ocean, you will realize the birthless. Hearing this, the master experienced awakening. So, quick little backstory, Michaka was a wizard of the time in India. And he had all these supernatural powers, and he had 8,000 wizard followers with him. And Dritaka finds them, or they find him. And even though he's this great wizard, he still wasn't satisfied. And so he went to Dritaka and asked for the teaching. And Dritaka says, practicing wizardry and studying the small. Isn't that interesting that he likens supernatural powers to the small stuff? And he says that all is just like being dragged with a rope. And so the main takeaway that we talked about this week here is, this really is talking about all the wizardry that we do in our lives. We manufacture diets to practice magic on our physiology. We use creams and lotions to reverse aging and change our skin. We employ communication techniques to work magic on our relationships. We create shows and television to transform the experience of free time. All these ways that we practice wizardry to try to change our life, to change our circumstances. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. I like being healthy. I like taking Advil when I have a fever or a headache. And your boy's no stranger to shea butter. Thank you, shea butter, by wizardry. But to be attached to that magic, to only be content and satisfied when I can change the world to meet my preferences, it's like being dragged with a rope. So it's not to say that we should never practice our wizardry, um, but just to see that that's kind of smaller, the small stream, as he said, or as the commentary says, the small waves, right? We can spend all of our time worrying about how big the wave is, how long I'm riding the wave, how good the wave feels. But if we can take a step back and see that each one of those waves is just simply a part of this giant ocean that we are all a part of. It's such a really beautiful metaphor because a wave at the same time isn't the ocean, it's a wave, and it is the ocean. It's nothing but the ocean taking a certain form. And so if we can awaken to um, the fact that we're just one little impermanent wave dealing with all the other little impermanent waves that are just a part of this huge one ocean, um, then we get a little bit freer in how we ride those waves. So that was the first story of Michaka's enlightenment. And then Michaka becomes an ancestor of the Buddha way. And then he wanders around as a teacher and a monk. And then he comes to this town and he sees a golden light hovering over this town. And he says, my next successor, my Dharma heir, will be there under the golden light. And in this town, we find Vasumitra, who is kind of described, at least in this collection, kind of described as like the town wino. It just says that he wanders around the village clutching this vessel of wine. Wherever he goes, he's carrying this wine. And sometimes he shouts and hollers, and sometimes he sighs, and everyone just thinks he's crazy. But Vasumitra knows that this is his next Dharma successor. So Michaka goes to the town, and seeing him, Vasumitra, who's been clutching this wine vessel his whole life maybe, never letting it go. But he sees Michaka and he puts down the vessel. So, and that's where the koan case starts. The ancestor, the seventh ancestor, was Vasumitra. Seeing Michaka, he placed a wine vessel before him, bowed, and stood there. Michaka asked him, "Is this my vessel or yours?" Vasumitra thought about it. Michaka answered himself, "If you think it is my vessel, it is your intrinsic nature. If you think it is your vessel, you will receive my Dharma." Hearing this, the master was greatly awakened concerning the unborn intrinsic nature. So this vessel, what do we carry around with us? What can we not let go of? What do we clutch? What gives us safety? What can we not let go of? What keeps us drunk on our beliefs and conditioning? And then what can come along to help us let go of it and put it down? And then to be able to step back from whatever it is we're holding on to and ask these questions. This self, these desires, these expectations, are they mine? Are they yours? Were they given to me? Do I have them? Are they gone? These are the gateway to basically at the end of the story, as it goes, once he has his great awakening, the vessel itself just vanishes into thin air. And so all of these things, I mean, think about everything that's being brought up here. Is it mine? Is it yours? Is it something to have? Is it something I need? And then he says, if you think it is my vessel, it is your intrinsic nature. Intrinsic. What is intrinsic to me? Is my getting yelled at as a 4-year-old, is that intrinsic to me? All that fear I carry around? What about even intergenerational trauma, inherited trauma? Is that intrinsic? Or was that introduced at a certain point? What isn't intrinsic? Is my intrinsic nature separate from these vessels that I carry around or not? And then he says, if you think it is your vessel, you will receive my dharma. So this should not be making sense to you. If you think it is mine, it is your intrinsic nature. If you think it is yours, you will receive the dharma. As if the dharma is something to receive. This whole collection is called the collection of transmitting the light. But this koan that we sit with forever is what could possibly be transmitted. We sit here and say that you as yourself right now are Buddha, are enlightened, are whole, intimate with the universe, not separate. So then what could possibly be passed from one person to another? The Buddha himself, like, did he receive something? He wasn't special, he was just a guy, or a woman, or non-binary. So this is our practice, is to invite all of these questions constantly. I have to get an A in this class. Is that my A? Is it the A of my parents who told me education is important? Is the A intrinsic to me? Am I intrinsically brilliant? Or is it something I had to work for? Is it better if it's intrinsic or if it's worked for? All these questions that come up, if we really invite them and embrace them, eventually we can experience the disappearance of all of our vessels, including the disappearing of the vessel. Very important to pick those vessels back up. Very important. So that's Vasumitra, the town wino, who's now our great Buddhist ancestor. So then Vasumitra is wandering around and teaching and being a monk. And then he meets the next ancestor, who is Buddha Nandi. Buddha Nandi, the 8th ancestor. And Buddha Nandi was known for being incredibly smart and sharp and the best debater in the land. And he knew all the philosophy and all the theories, and no one could match his wit and his ability to be smart and sound smart and get things right and catch people in, contradictions and all of that. So Buddha Nandi hears that Vasumitra, this great Buddha guy or gal, has come to his village, and that's where we pick up with the next koan. So the 8th ancestor, Buddha Nandi, he met Vasumitra, the 7th ancestor, and said to him, "I have come to discuss the truth with you." Vasumitra replied, "Good sir, if you discuss, it is not the truth. Truth is not discussed. If you intend to discuss the truth, then in the end, It is not a discussion of truth. Buddha Nandi then realized that Vasumitra's truth was superior and was awakened to the principle of the unborn. So let's not overlook the theme here of awakening to the unborn. Beginninglessness, endlessness. Those of you who come to these talks, you know that I'm super interested in figuring out and playing with language on what this practice does. Because of course it does nothing and we come with no expectations and it shouldn't be transactional. But also we're sitting here for 8 hours a day during sesshin. Why? What does it do? So, fun to play with language around how to answer that. And one of the things to look at is that we get to encounter things like beginninglessness, unbornness, your original face before your parents were born. All of these offerings that these ancient teachings give us that make absolutely zero sense. And if we try to use philosophical or intellectual or conceptual mind to, squeeze juice out of them, it's very unsatisfying. And so this intensive sitting that we do, just being here with my breath, with a koan, with the sounds of the world, just stopping, as Manny said, slowly, or maybe for some of us quickly, we find new ways to receive these prompts, these invitations. What could beginninglessness mean? Everything we know from the time we're born is presented to us in the time-space reality. So how can we possibly approach outside of time and space? I think Zazen helps with that. So yeah, here's this smart guy, and he comes to discuss the truth. And then, on its surface, it's pretty clear. We hear a lot of Buddhist teachers saying you can't put it in words, real truth cannot be discussed in language. And to an extent, I guess that's kind of true. But what I really like about this koan is it offers us the opportunity to look at all of the discussions that we have in our life. All of our thoughts, every last little thought is kind of like us coming to ourselves saying, I would like to discuss the truth with you. You are the best person in the world. You need to do more. You haven't done enough. The fountain is working. I need to call my mom. All of these are discussions that we engage in with ourselves and the universe. And what if none of those discussions are the truth? The real truth, right? In a way, we can say it is Sunday, and I guess that's true. Something we've agreed upon to help society work. But as soon as we put anything into conceptual form, it is limited to that conceptual form. And our true unborn self is not constrained to concepts or language. So I think that's another thing that Zazen offers us, is a chance to get in touch with all of the discussions that we make with ourselves. And to ask, I quote Sason, quoting Byron Katie, is that true? Is that really true? Is that really, really true? And if we can come in touch intimately with this vast, empty ocean, um, the answers will vary. Because, very important, this koan is not saying that there's no truth. That's not the point. Even saying these are not true is not true. Constantly letting go, letting everything be slippery. That's how we harmonize with impermanence. So, yeah, that was the great awakening of Buddha Nandi. And then Buddha Nandi is walking around being a Buddha monk and teaching. And then he comes to a village and he sees a bright light hovering over this house. And he says, he has a premonition or something. He says, in that house, there is someone who has never spoken a word and has never taken a step. And that person will be my Dharma heir. So he goes to the house and he knocks on the door, and this older couple answers, and he says, I have come to find my attendant or Dharma heir. And they say, well, we just have one son here, and he's already 50 years old, and he's never said anything, and he's never taken a step. And Buddha Nandi says, perfect! That's what I'm looking for. And he says he has never spoken or walked because he was thinking of the difficulty of turning his back on the love of father and mother. So the way I see this right now is, the love of father and mother kind of symbolizes where I feel safe, where I feel okay, what I can hold on to. You can pretty much rely on parental love. Some of us. For some of us, it's friends. For some of us, it's accomplishment. For some of us, it's more toxic things that we are taught to rely on. But whatever it is that we hold on to for safety, that we're attached to, how often do I not speak my voice, not let myself be heard? How often do I not take action, pursue my vision, get involved for fear of not having that safe place? I think we can all relate to that. And this guy, or this person, Buddha Mitra, just kind of exhibits it to an extreme. For 50 years, he never says a word, he never takes a step. But, of course, when Buddha Nandi enters the house, Buddha Mitra then arises to his feet magically and utters a verse, which we don't have to go into the verse. But then Buddha Nandi, the teacher here, he says, your speech is one with your intrinsic mind, and not even your mother and father can compare in closeness. Your actions are one with the way, and this is what the mind of Buddha is. If you search externally for a Buddha with form, he will not resemble you. If you want to know your intrinsic mind, if you want to know your true self, you are neither one with it nor separate from it. It's like a wave. It's not one with the ocean, and it's not separate from the ocean. your speech itself, your voice, who you are, everything you do, all of your thoughts, your delusions, your premonitions, everything is the Buddha way. They may just be waves, and we don't want to get tossed around by the waves, but they are not separate from your own intrinsic Buddhahood. Um, so, yeah, I was watching this, I guess, pre-TED Talk. It was like an 80s or 90s video of someone giving a lecture, and he said, don't live your life without making your music. Whatever your music is, whatever's in your heart, um, let it out, pursue it. Easier said than done. A lot of us have many blocks to doing that. Um, and I hope that this practice and this community are at least one little part of our journey to making our music be heard, taking our steps, speaking our voice, and realizing that all of our brokenness, all of our flaws, all of our mistakes, all of our guilt is a manifestation of this beautiful ocean. And we don't need wizardry to make it anything other than what it is. We can use wizardry to serve ourselves and others, but we don't have to be reliant on it. We can just let everything be slippery. So I hope you go away from this intensive period open and struggling and joyful and just grateful for all of the slipperiness and all of the vessels that we play with, let go of. And I really like this. Make sure to pour some out for the homies. Um, thank you all so much for your practice. Big shout out.